Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to go on exploring something
Mm.
that you use literally all the time,
Yeah.
but you probably don't even think about it.
Hmm.
It's negative sentences. We've got a whole
Wow.
bunch of research on how negation works in English,
Mm.
and honestly, it's a lot more interesting than I thought it would be.
Really?
I thought it was going to be
Mm-hmm.
like really dry, but it's actually pretty cool.
Mm.
So you might even be surprised to find out that there's like a formula to being negative.
Oh, really? Like a recipe?
Yeah, kind of
I love it.
like a linguistic recipe.
Mm.
So it's fascinating how we can like use these structures without even like
Yeah,
realizing how complex the grammar is that's happening.
it is. So.
The core concept that we got from all of our sources is that to make a sentence negative, you
Yeah.
have to use not
Mm-hmm.
alongside an auxiliary verb.
Okay.
But I think we need to go a little bit deeper than that.
Oh.
Like, what is an auxiliary verb?
Uh,
What's the history
Yeah.
of these things?
Sure.
Maybe how do they function in other languages?
Yeah, absolutely. So auxiliary verbs, they're also called helping verbs.
Okay.
And they basically change the tense or the mood of a main verb. So common examples are do, be, have, can, will, should,
Right.
all of those. And the use of these auxiliary verbs for negation, like, it developed gradually over time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's not something that was always there. Old English, for instance, they could actually form negatives without auxiliary verbs.
Mm.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. So they didn't need them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then if you look at other languages like Spanish or French,
Okay.
they often use like a double negative construction where they place a negative word like before and after a verb, which can sound very strange to English speakers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because we're like, wait, you're canceling out the negative?
Right. Yeah.
But it's just how their grammar works.
So like using do as a helper for not
Mm-hmm.
is a fairly recent development for English.
Exactly. Yeah. It started becoming more common like around the 1500s.
Okay.
And eventually became the standard way of forming negatives in English.
Okay. So let's look at this example sentence that they have in this source material,
Okay.
which is, I do not like this movie.
Yeah.
So like is our main verb
Exactly.
and then do not is our auxiliary verb plus not combo,
Exactly.
making this sentence negative.
And it's amazing how just like the simple placement of not can like subtly shift the emphasis in a sentence. Like, I do not like this movie.
Okay.
Like puts the focus squarely on your dislike.
Right.
While I dislike this movie, it kind of feels more formal, like
Yeah.
you're being very proper. And then there's also the archaic,
Hmm.
I like this movie not, which is grammatically correct in Old English.
Really?
But today it sounds kind of humorous, like almost like a joke.
It's like putting on airs a little bit.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that I like this movie not. That sounds archaic. Why did that structure like fall out of favor?
That's a great question.
Did it serve like a specific purpose back then?
I mean, it could be linked to like how emphasis in sentences evolved over time.
Oh, interesting.
Maybe placing not at the end was like a way of adding dramatic flair back then, but now it just sounds kind of silly.
Yeah. It makes you wonder if our current structures will sound strange
Yeah.
centuries from now.
Absolutely.
So basically, to sum all this up, the auxiliary verb plus not combo
Yes.
is the standard way to form negative sentences in modern English,
Mhm.
but it's only a small part of the story of how negation has changed over time.
It's a fascinating story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never really thought about it, but
Yeah.
understanding these mechanics of negation could be actually surprisingly useful.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Think about like writing an email
Okay.
where you need to disagree with someone.
Right?
Knowing these nuances can really help you express your point clearly and respectfully.
Oh, that's a great point. So while we might not think much about negative sentences in our everyday lives,
Right.
they have this rich history, and they can even impact how effectively we communicate.
Absolutely.
Well, that was way more interesting than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
So we may not have covered everything
Yeah.
about negative sentences today, but hopefully this has given you a good starting point
Yeah.
for further exploration.
Exactly. And, here's something for you to think about.
Okay.
How do negative prefixes like un or dis contribute to the overall meaning of a sentence?
Oh, that's a good question.
That's something to ponder
Yeah.
for next time.
All right. Thanks for joining us,
Thanks for having me.
and we'll see you next time.
Bye.